You know that feeling when you're standing on the beach looking out at the ocean and the water suddenly pulls way, way back?
Oh, yeah. That eerie quiet before it hits.
Right. It's super quiet, but your stomach just completely drops. Because, without a doubt, a massive wave is gathering momentum right off the coast.
You have very little time to react.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly. That visceral pit in your stomach anticipation. That is exactly the feeling sweeping through the entire tech world right now.
It really is.
You look at the pace of the top AI labs, just the sheer velocity of the breakthroughs coming out week after week, and there's this creeping anxiety that they're going to eat software entirely.
Yeah, and since almost all modern work is expressed as software in some form,
They're eventually going to eat the world.
which is causing a profound sense of disorientation for pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, the fundamental rules of economic gravity, right? The things businesses have relied on for the last 20 years to stay safe or defensible or profitable, they are suddenly just shifting right under our feet.
It's crazy.
It's not just a subtle change. It's an entire paradigm collapse.
So for you listening, whether you're, running a business, managing a team, or just trying to figure out what your own career looks like in 3 to 5 years, we are dedicating this deep dive to mapping out what actually survives this wave.
Because you need a map right now.
You really do.
Yeah.
We're looking at a phenomenal, deeply analytical piece of writing by Christian Catalini. It's titled Surviving the AI Moatpocalypse.
Great title.
Right. And our mission today, just to set the stage, it isn't to give you some temporary growth hacks or quick software fixes that will be totally obsolete by next Tuesday.
No, they will be.
Oh, absolutely.
No.
We are going down to the bedrock here. We want to map out the economic first principles of navigating an AI landscape that is completely filled with unknown unknowns.
Right, discovering what actually holds value when intelligence itself becomes cheap.
Which is such a crazy concept to even say out loud.
Yeah.
Intelligence becoming cheap.
It really is. And it's the most crucial framing we could start with because the sheer pace of development right now is blinding. I mean, Catalini points out something fascinating about this environment.
What's that?
Well, AI is actually exacerbating consensus and muting contrarian thinking
Wait, really? How?
because it's accelerating idea recombination so wildly. The cost of generating a new combination of ideas has just plummeted.
Oh, I see.
He brings up this brilliant quote from the economist Alfred Marshall. This was written all the way back in 1890, describing industrial clusters. Marshall noted that in these highly concentrated areas, the mysteries of the trade become no mysteries, but are, as it were, in the air.
In the air. I love that image.
Just perfect, right?
It really perfectly describes how a breakthrough published on say, a Tuesday morning is somehow integrated into 3 different competing products by Thursday afternoon.
Exactly. Everyone is inadvertently distilling everyone else in real time. For AI today, that localized cluster is San Francisco. Though, as robotics and embodied AI advance, that center of gravity might shift to manufacturing hubs like China's river deltas.
Right, where the physical stuff gets built.
Yeah, but the core lesson remains. When the air is humming with that much shared accelerating intelligence, basic economic forces don't just disappear.
They get stronger.
They become much more ruthless. We have to strip away the localized hype and look at the raw mechanics of value creation.
Okay, let's do that. Let's start by looking at the initial panic that kicked this off, the so-called Moatpocalypse. Because initially, everyone assumed the big, closed, state-of-the-art models would just dominate, right?
The ones tightly controlled by the massive labs.
Right. Everyone thought they would hold all the power and dictate the terms of the new economy. But they're actually facing immense pressure from open-weight models.
Huge pressure.
And just to be clear for you listening on what that means, open-weight models are those where the actual underlying mathematical parameters, the brain of the AI, so to speak, are released publicly.
Right, anyone can download them.
Exactly. You can run them locally, you can fine-tune them. It totally democratizes the volume of AI work.
Which instantly commoditizes the foundational layer. I mean, if the raw intelligence is widely accessible and relatively cheap, the immediate entrepreneurial reflex is to build the layer right above it.
The routing layer.
Yes. People think, oh, I'll build the routing layer. I'll be the switchboard that dynamically directs the user's prompt to the cheapest or fastest model available at any given millisecond.
It's a classic aggregation play, like Kayak for AI models.
Exactly. But Catalini's text just shreds that idea.
Why? It sounds smart on paper.
Because the barriers to entry for a routing layer are practically zero. I mean, if you are just competing on providing cheaper or slightly more efficient access to underlying models, a leading AI lab can completely vaporize your business overnight.
Oh, just by dropping their API prices.
Or releasing a low-cost, highly efficient model that matches the open ones.
Right, and you're just gone.
Poof. Which pushes everyone to panic, abandon the routing layer, and scramble higher up the ladder to the app layer.
The app layer. So building specialized software interfaces, like for coding, graphic design, or financial forecasting.
Right. And that scramble provides a very dangerous, very false sense of security.
Because it feels like normal tech.
I feel safe. Historically, the last mile of technology, the specific interface that actually touches the end consumer and solves their problem, that's where all the friction is.
And therefore, where all the value gets captured.
Oh, wait, I have to jump in here and push back a bit.
Go for it.
Because if you look at the history of recent tech revolutions, that historical rule usually holds up, right? Like,
Right.
look at crypto.
Okay, yeah.
It started as this wildly subversive, decentralized, anti-establishment technology, but all the actual financial value oddly accrued to the most boring, centralized intermediaries.
The exchanges. Right. The ones that essentially just had banking charters and user-friendly apps. So wouldn't building a specialized app tailored to a specific industry right now be the absolute smartest, safest bet?
Under the old rules, absolutely. You'd be 100% right.
But not anymore.
But AI breaks that historical rule through an economic concept known as the bitter lesson.
The bitter lesson. Let's break down the mechanics of that because that sounds extremely ominous.
It is for traditional software. The bitter lesson is a famous realization in computer science. It states that general methods leveraging massive raw computation will always ultimately defeat specialized handcrafted approaches.
Wow, always.
Always. So a generalized frontier model might only be, say, okay, a graphic design or legal contract analysis today.
Right.
But as it ingests more digital traces of how humans actually solve those problems, it doesn't just improve a little bit.
It scales exponentially.
It becomes exceptionally good, far surpassing the handcrafted software you spent 2 years building. It systematically eats industry verticals one by one.
So wait, that means the traditional software as a service model, SaaS, is essentially bleeding out.
Very quickly.
Because if a company realizes they can just use an underlying frontier model to clone a specialized SaaS tool in-house for a fraction of the cost, why would they keep paying you $20 a month for it?
They wouldn't. The perceived value of just providing a digital workspace evaporates.
Ouch.
But this forces a fascinating evolution. The surviving companies are shifting from SaaS to what Catalini calls LAS, Liability-as-a-Service.
Liability-as-a-Service. Okay, what does that actually look like operationally? Are you saying they aren't just selling me the software to, like, calculate my taxes? They're actually taking on the legal and financial liability if the taxes are wrong.
That is the exact operational shift. You stop selling seats to use a tool, and you start selling the end-to-end completed work, fully underwriting the risks of execution.
Oh, wow. That is a massive pivot.
Take companies like Stripe and Ramp as examples. They are rapidly evolving from traditional fintech software companies into something closer to foundational AI labs focused specifically on the domain of finance and payments.
Interesting.
They aren't just giving a CFO a nice dashboard to manage expenses anymore. They are leveraging AI models to capture the entire value chain of the work itself, guaranteeing the outcome and absorbing the liability of fraud or error.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if the app layer is just a sandcastle getting washed away by the bitter lesson,
Yep.
and survival requires taking on actual liability for the work, we really need to know how to identify what is actually safe to build on.
Exactly.
And the text introduces 3 foundational economic first principles for navigating this. Principle number 1 is the measurement rule. Anything that can be measured will be automated.
It is the absolute fundamental dividing line of the future economy.
A dividing line.
Without a doubt, because the mechanism of AI training relies entirely on feedback loops. Better AI leads to better measurement of tasks. And that better measurement is then fed back in as training data to create even better AI.
So it's a flywheel.
An incredibly fast-moving, aggressive frontier that constantly redefines what is uniquely human and what is defensible for a business.
So if you are listening to this and you're trying to map out your company's strategy or your own career trajectory, you are essentially staring down a massive dichotomy.
2 paths.
Right, 2 choices. You either have to build an operation that is the absolute best in the world at measuring things to feed the automation engine, Or you have to sprint in the completely opposite direction to domains that are completely unmeasurable.
You nailed it. You either become the engine of measurement or you escape its gravity entirely.
And what does escaping look like?
If you choose to escape, you enter the land of the unknown unknowns.
That's mysterious.
It's basically domains where the complexity of the environment makes assigning clear probabilities to events incredibly difficult. In these spaces, the objective right answer actually matters far less than human connection, shared experience, or social consensus.
The text calls the people who operate in these unmeasurable spaces the meaning makers.
Yeah.
Which I love. And the examples really clarify why human struggle has economic value, right?
Right.
Fine art, status games, cryptocurrency, highly specialized mental health support.
Yes. The value in those domains is derived almost entirely from the human element.
Right.
People frequently overestimate how easily a cheap, highly capable AI substitute can replace a high-touch human endeavor.
Because it's not just about the output.
Exactly. I mean, an AI might be able to ingest your entire life history and give you technically perfect, statistically optimal psychological advice.
But it lacks the shared experience of human vulnerability. It hasn't lived.
Right.
Like, we value a beautiful piece of art or a handmade piece of furniture, not just because of the final arrangement of atoms, but because we know another human being struggled, spent time, and poured their finite lifespan into creating it.
That struggle is the value.
We value the therapist because they are a person who is actively choosing to listen and empathize. That human friction escapes measurement.
It does.
So that covers the meaning makers.
Yeah.
But we still have to figure out the rest of the economy. The businesses trying to actually execute logistical, legal, and operational work. Which leads us to principle 2.
Which deals with the massive, murky, gray area of the modern economy. What happens when AI can do the work, but we don't fully trust it yet?
That is the million-dollar question.
Principle 2 states that if execution becomes free and abundant, which it is rapidly becoming for any task that can be measured,
Right.
then the economic value naturally flows to the verification last mile.
The verification last mile, meaning the act of looking at the work and deciding if it's actually true, safe, and ready to be deployed into the real world.
Precisely. And Catalini maps out this dynamic using a brilliant economic framework called the measurability gap matrix.
Let's walk through this matrix. Because mapping out everyday work this way is incredibly revealing. It categorizes every single task by asking 2 questions, right?
Yes, 2 highly pragmatic questions. Can a machine execute this task cheaply? And can a human being verify the quality of that execution cheaply?
Okay, so it starts with the green zone.
The green zone is where safe, highly efficient automation lives. A machine can do the work cheaply, and a person can check it cheaply.
For example, having an AI format a massive chaotic spreadsheet into clean columns.
Perfect example.
The AI does it in 3 milliseconds, and a human can tell with a 2-second glance if the columns are lined up correctly. Cheap execution, cheap verification.
Then you have the blue zone. This is where humans still do the work, but the quality is incredibly obvious to judge.
So the trades.
Yes. Plumbing, carpentry, electrical work. We don't have cheap, reliable robotic labor to snake a drain yet, but the homeowner knows instantly if the pipe is still leaking.
Obviously. And then the purple zone is sort of the inverse of that. Humans do the work, but the quality of that work is notoriously hard to judge in the short term.
This is where elite taste, strategic corporate leadership, and visionary design live. You might not know if a CEO's strategic pivot was brilliant or disastrous until 5 years later.
Right. It takes time. But the last zone, this is the big one.
The red zone.
The zone that is going to define the next decade of corporate survival.
The blind spot. This is where machines can execute the work incredibly cheaply, but no one can affordably verify if the machine did it correctly.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because verification in this context isn't just like basic proofreading.
Oh, not at all.
The text makes it clear that true verification requires bringing in tacit knowledge that the machine hasn't seen yet.
And tacit knowledge is that unwritten, experiential, deeply intuitive understanding of a field that an expert builds up over decades. It's the context that isn't captured in a textbook or a digital trace.
So it's basically gut feeling backed by experience.
Exactly. Which is why the red zone is such a severe bottleneck. Let's look at a practical example. Imagine you have an ultra-fast AI legal agent. It can draft 100 complex, heavily customized corporate merger contracts in a single second. The execution cost is functionally zero.
Right.
But you can't just send those contracts to the client. You still have to pay a senior partner at the law firm who bills at $1,500 an hour to spend 2 entire days painstakingly reading every single clause.
Just to ensure the AI didn't completely hallucinate a fabricated legal precedent that could ruin the merger.
Exactly.
So it's like having an ultra-fast intern. The bottleneck isn't the typing anymore. The typing is literally free. The bottleneck is the checking.
And this exposes a massive flaw in how Silicon Valley is currently pitching agentic labor.
Wait, really? Flawed how?
Well, the idea of AI agents going off and completing complex multi-step tasks on their own is functionally useless to a business if humans cannot verify the output affordably.
Ah, I see.
As compute gets cheaper and frontier models get smarter, more and more complex tasks drift out of the green zone and get stuck in the red zone.
The measurability gap.
Yes, the entire distance between that cheap AI execution and that cripplingly expensive human verification is the measurability gap.
So how on earth does a company build a defensible moat in that red zone? If verification is this massive, expensive bottleneck, how do you turn that into a profitable business?
There are fundamentally only 2 ways to survive the red zone. You either have to aggressively collect unique proprietary data streams that the foundation models don't have access to,
Okay, data advantage.
or you have to hire, retain, and heavily compensate the absolute best human experts in the world.
And the text has this fascinating, honestly, almost jarring way of describing those human experts. It says that the weights inside the world's top expert brains are essentially the most realistic simulators of a particular slice of reality.
Yeah, the market pays these experts astronomically high salaries because their biological brains are the highly realistic simulators that the AI desperately needs to check its own work.
It is a stark, very unsentimental way to describe human expertise, just calling us biological simulators.
It is cold,
Yeah.
but from a raw economic standpoint, it perfectly explains the market dynamics. You cannot just use a secondary AI model to verify the primary AI model's work in the red zone.
Because both models share the same fundamental blind spots.
Exactly. You need the human residual. You need the tacit knowledge, the intuition, the real-world friction that hasn't been digitized yet.
Okay, so that brings us to principle 3. We've established that the app layer is vulnerable, that the measurement rule drives what gets automated, and that verification is the ultimate bottleneck.
Right.
The final piece of the puzzle is understanding how a company actually scales that verification process into a defensible business advantage. Because, the traditional tech moats we grew up with are dying.
The old playbooks are literally being incinerated. Think about distribution advantages or marketplace liquidity or vendor lock-in.
Yeah, those used to be gold.
For 20 years, if you built a platform with high switching costs, you won. But in an AI native world, consumers are going to have their own intelligent agents, and these agents will be able to multi-home perfectly.
Multi-home. Perfectly. Let's break that down, because it sounds like industry jargon, but the mechanism behind it is pretty wild.
It really is. Multi-homing perfectly means an AI agent can simultaneously operate across a dozen different platforms at the speed of light.
Like all at once.
Right. If you want to book a complex logistics shipment, your agent doesn't just log into one provider. It instantly queries 20 different APIs, negotiates the best rate, migrates all your necessary data in milliseconds, executes the transaction, and deletes the footprint.
Wow. So the switching cost essentially approaches zero. Traditional marketplace liquidity and vendor lock-in just evaporate.
They're gone.
So what does this all mean? If distribution is dead and network effects are dead, what is actually left to build a company around?
Principle 3 states that the only way to survive is by scaling your verification process faster than your competitors, which establishes a verification-grade network effect.
A verification-grade network effect.
That is the ultimate and perhaps only remaining moat.
Walk me through the actual mechanics of how a company builds that loop, because it sounds abstract.
It operates as a very specific, aggressive feedback loop.
Wow.
You deploy a product that handles high-stakes transactions. As it operates, it inevitably encounters out-of-distribution events.
Out-of-distribution events, like edge cases.
Exactly. These are the weird, chaotic, highly complex edge case scenarios that the AI's training data simply hasn't seen before.
The classic example being a Tesla on full self-driving suddenly encountering a person in a full chicken suit riding a unicycle down the middle of a highway.
Yes, exactly. The AI model fails, or it flags its own low confidence. At that moment, you feed that bizarre out-of-distribution event directly back to your team of top-tier human experts.
The highly realistic biological simulators.
You got it. Those experts verify the situation, correct the vehicle's path, and apply their tacit knowledge to solve the problem.
And
Then,
this is the crucial step. Right?
very crucial, you take the digital trails of how the human solved it, and you feed those trails back into your model's next training run.
You've essentially just automated that specific edge case.
And your model gets marginally smarter, which means your human experts can now spend their time finding even weirder, more complex edge cases.
Oh, so your verification gets faster, your model handles more of the red zone automatically, and your lead over your competitors dramatically widens.
Yes. You see this operational loop driving companies like Tesla with autonomous driving, Stripe with their AI fraud and payment models, Palantir's AIP platforms, and advanced coding tools like Devin or Claude Code.
They are all running this massive, continuous verification loop against reality.
Against reality, exactly.
Which brings up a tension I want to highlight. Because there is an old, cynical computer science joke that any problem in the world can be solved just by adding another layer of indirection. Just build another layer of software abstraction on top of the messy problem.
Right, right.
But if I'm understanding this correctly, the ultimate technological advantage in the AI era isn't found in writing clever code at all. It's actually found in dealing with the messy, physical, bureaucratic, painfully undigital real world.
I am so glad you brought up that specific joke, because Catalini uses it to highlight the ultimate trap of the AI era.
Oh, it's a trap.
A huge one. If you try to survive by adding another layer of digital indirection, another clever routing API, another slick sauce dashboard.
You'll be crushed by the bitter lesson.
Exactly. The only defensible moat left is diving headfirst into meaningful friction with reality.
Friction with reality. We're talking about atoms, physics, and gravity.
Atoms, heavy machinery, complex physical logistics, or, just as importantly, severe regulatory friction. The brutal bureaucratic slog of getting banking licenses, navigating healthcare compliance, or dealing with local policymakers.
Because an AI model sitting in a server farm cannot easily replicate the sheer physical and bureaucratic struggle of operating in those messy domains.
It can't. The grunt work of facing reality is the only place left to find unique, unmeasured data.
That reframes so much of the current tech discourse. I mean, everyone in Silicon Valley right now is obsessed with the concept of agency, building AI agents that can go out and take actions on the internet.
Right, but what they really want, whether they realize it or not, is a system that can grind through real-world friction.
Wow.
Agency is just a proxy for the willingness to drive through the grunt work. The companies that emerge victorious from the Moatpocalypse will be the ones that use AI to make execution virtually free, but deploy their top human talent to wade deep into the friction.
To verify the messy edge cases and collect the measurement of reality faster than anyone else.
You've got it.
This has been incredibly clarifying. Let's pull all of this together for everyone listening. The ground beneath the tech economy is shifting because AI is commoditizing software and cheapening raw intelligence.
Right.
To survive, you have to anchor your strategy to 3 economic first principles. Principle 1 is the measurement rule. What gets measured gets automated.
You must either own the engine of measurement or become a meaning maker in the unmeasurable spaces of human connection.
Principle 2 is the verification bottleneck. If execution is cheap, all the economic value flows to the verification last mile.
You have to bridge the measurability gap in the red zone by combining AI with the tacit knowledge of top human experts.
And principle 3 is the verification grade network effect. The only truly defensible moat left is building a feedback loop based entirely on running into real-world friction, solving it with humans, and feeding it back to the machines.
It forces an entire paradigm shift.
Yeah.
You have to stop asking, how do I build a clever app? And start asking, how do I capture the hardest, most unyielding, most friction-filled parts of reality?
But it leaves me with one final deeply provocative thought to mull over. And I want you listening to think about this too.
Okay.
If our human brains are currently so highly valued by the market, specifically because we act as highly realistic simulators of reality to train the AI,
Yeah.
what happens when the models finally ingest enough edge cases to simulate the physical friction of the real world entirely?
Oh, wow.
When that measurability gap finally closes for good, and the machines no longer need human tacit knowledge to verify themselves in the physical world.
Then what?
Right. Will the artists, the caregivers, and the meaning makers be the only ones left standing on the beach with a moat?
It is the ultimate existential question of the AI frontier. I mean, when reality itself becomes fully measured and simulated, the messy, unquantifiable nature of human meaning might be the only scarcity left in the economy.
We will leave you with that massive thought to chew on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time as we keep mapping out the unknown unknowns.